Welcome dear students to another class of English. Today we will start the main title of this book, which is derived from this lesson, Footprints Without Feet. That the same book name is the title of today's lesson that we are going to study. So footprints without feet, feet नहीं है फिर भी फुट का प्रिंट्स दिखता है, तो इनविजिबल मैन की ये स्टोरी है. तो वी विल सी how he becomes invisible, this scientist who has experimented with some things of chemicals, and that way he is able to get himself disappear, and that story is very interesting, because you also think that when suppose we become invisible, how nice it would be. But this type of stories are written, and it's a legend, and like stories which are not realistic. Fables are, though fables are like adventure, science related it is, and therefore here the footprints lesson will feel interesting. How did the invisible men first become visible? What was the wandering the streets? Well, read and find out questions. You'll have to write about this also. So going to the story, the two boys started surprised at the fresh, muddy imprints of a pair of bare feet. What was bare feet men doing on the steps of a house in the middle of London? Bare feet only, whole body. Where was the men? As they gazed, a remarkable sight met their eyes. A fresh footmark appeared from nowhere. The man was not there. Still, there was this footprints being observed by this two boys who were running. Further footprints followed one after another, descending the steps and progressing. As advancing down the street, the boys followed, fascinated until the muddy impressions became fainter and fainter, and at last disappeared altogether. So the muddy impressions that was made on the mud was also disappearing, and that way the fainter and fainter becoming footprints they followed. The explanation of the mystery was really simple enough. The bewildered boys had been followed the scientists who had just discovered how to make a human body transparent. The scientist has discovered just recently how to become invisible, and with that he is moving away and creating a lot of adventure in the process. Griffin, the scientist, his name is Griffin, and the scientist's name, and carried out experiment after experiment to prove that the human body could become invisible. With a lot of experiment work, he did that. Finally, he swallowed a certain rare drug, and his body became as transparent as a sheet of glass, though it remained as solid as glass. So here the transparent became, but it was a solid glass. It remained a solid glass. So that one day when he drank some chemical, unknown chemical, and that made this possible. Brilliant scientist though he was, Griffin was a rather lawless person. Lawless means unruly, कोई rule follow नहीं करने वाला. His landlord disliked him and tried to eject him. Landlord, भाड़े पे जहाँ रहता था वहाँ पे भाड़ा नहीं देता था, and that way he wanted to eject him by force, throwing out. In revenge, Griffin would fire to the house. Griffin इसको आग लगा देता गुस्से में, मुझे बाहर निकाल दिया. To get away without being seen, he had removed his clothes, just as if that was become a homeless wanderer, without clothes, without money, and quite invisible, until he happened to step in some mud and left footprints as he walked. He escaped easily from the boys who followed his footprints in London, but his adventure were by no means over. He had chosen a bad time. He followed these boys who followed the footprints in London, but his adventure was not over still. You see what he does. He had chosen a bad time of the year, London, without clothes. London, the temperature goes sometimes below minus, and it's very cold. The air was bitterly cold, and he could not do without clothes. Instead, walking along the street, he decided to slip into the big London store for warmth. So there are heaters in the storerooms and in this type of stores, because outside there is very snowfall or the minus degree temperatures there, so in the cars and other vehicles and going into the stores, when you go in the offices, there is heater, just like we have refrigerator, air conditioners, and that way they give coolness. Heaters give hotness, and therefore this store is chosen by Griffith to save himself from the London cold. Close time arrived. Closing time was there. At the time was closed. The store was to be closed, and as soon as doors were shut, Griffin was able. Now see, in the story is there, and Griffin is hiding over there, and the store remains closed. Now can I understand? The whole store is at his will. What we want to do with the things available in the store, he can use it and enjoy. The year that is given in this particular paragraph, and Griffin managed to have all and did not wake until the assistance. So in the morning also he doesn't wake up because of the enjoyment he gets from this particular store. So that is described in that last paragraph. Then approaching the panicked, and so he gets panicked when the boys opened the store at that time. They naturally were chased. In the end, was able to escape only by quickly taking his newly found clothes. नए कपड़े वो लेके ना भागता है. So once more he found himself invisible but naked in the chill January air. Again, the chill of January is there. He used to take out the clothes, become invisible, and he runs away from the store. When in the morning he's not able to wake up and the store is opened. This time he decided to try the stock at a theoretical company in the hope of finding not only clothes but also something that would hide an empty space above his shoulder. Shivering with cold, he hurried to Drury Lane, the center of theoretical world. जहाँ पे theaters ज़्यादा थे वहाँ पे वो चला गया क्योंकि वहाँ पे कपड़े उसको मिल सकते थे. He soon found a suitable shop. He made his way invisible upstairs and came out a little later wearing bandages from his forehead, dark glasses, false nose. See how he dresses himself: big bushy side whiskers and large hat. To escape without being seen, he callously attacked the shopkeeper from behind, after which he robbed him of all the money he could find. फिर एक आदमी को लूट लेता है ऐसा करके. Eager to get away from the crowd of London, he took a train to the village of Epping, where he booked 2 rooms at the local inn. फिर वहाँ पे ना एक छोटी होटल में इन में वो रहने की जगह है, वहाँ पे ना 2 रूम बुक करता है. The arrival of a stranger in an inn is winter was in any case unusual event. विंटर में ऐसा कोई आता है, a stranger of such unknown appearance, पता नहीं चल रहा है, tongues wagging, लोग ना अपना टंग दिखा के ना, that's called tongue wagging. Mrs. Hall, the landlord's wife, made every effort to be friendly, but Griffin had no desire to talk and told her, "My reason for coming to Epping is desire for solitude." मैं loneliness के लिए आया, मुझे कोई मगजमारी चाहिए नहीं. अपने landlord को बोला, "I do not wish to be disturbed in my work. Besides, an accident has affected my face." So what he has tied the bandages is because of the accident. मुझे disturb मत करना, मैं यहाँ पे रूम आपके भाड़े पे रह रहा हूँ, और I will not want to face any type of interference in my work. Satisfied that the guest was an eccentric scientist, and in view of that fact that he had paid her in advance, लूटा था ना वो आदमी को, तो उसने एडवांस दे दिया, लो भाड़ा मैं पहले से दे रहा हूँ. And that is why the landlord also didn't have any problem. Mrs. Hall was prepared to excuse his strange habits, and Mrs. Hall is the landlord, and she's excusing him from स्ट्रेंज हैबिट्स यूज़ किए हैं, या फिर इरिटेबल टेम्पर उसका है ना, गुस्सा हो जाना कहीं पे कुछ भी दिमाग कैसे चलेगा पता नहीं है, ऐसा आदमी इरिटेबल टेम्पर वाला. बट द स्टोलन मनी डिड नॉट लास्ट लॉन्ग, एंड प्रेजेंटली ग्रिफिथ हैड टू एडमिट दैट ही हैड नो मोर रेडी कैश. वापस पैसे कम हो गए. ही प्रिटेंडेड हाउ दैट ही वाज एक्सपेक्टिंग अ चेक टू अराइव एट एनी मोमेंट. तो कोई भी टाइम पे एक चेक आने वाला है, ऐसा प्रिटेंड किया लैंडलॉर्ड. प्रिटेंड करना यानी ऐसा दिखावा किया कि ना मैं चेक आने वाला है. Shortly afterwards, a curious episode occurred. Very early in the morning, a clergyman and his wife were awakened by noises in the study. Clergyman अपना स्टडी कर रहे थे, उसमें you know, noise, आवाज आई. Creeping downstairs, they heard chink of money being taken from the clergyman's desk. वो लोग अगर अपनी डेस्क से वो ना क्लर्जीमैन जहाँ पे नीचे था ना उसकी डेस्क में से वो पैसा निकाल रहे थे विदाउट मेकिंग एनी नॉइज एंड विद अ पोकर ग्रास्प्ड फर्मली इन हिज हैंड द क्लर्जीमैन फ्लंग ओपन द डोर. खोल के ना पोकर जैसे ना कोयले को ना गर्म रखने के लिए कोयला वो करते हैं ना तो उस वो पोकर लेके वो है ना उसके भी वो तुरंत दरवाज़ा खोलता है. सरेंडर बोले अपने सरेंडर कर ले मेरे से. देन टू हिज अमेजमेंट bewilderment he realized that the room appeared to be empty. रूम में तो है ही नहीं, कहाँ गया वो. To his wife looked upon the desk and behind the curtains and even to the chimney. There wasn't a sign of anything, yet the desk was being opened and the housekeeping money was missing. बिना कोई आदमी दिखाई दे रहा है और ये पैसा भी गया और आदमी भी दिख नहीं रहा. एक्स्ट्राऑर्डिनरी अफेयर, ऐसा कभी देखने को नहीं मिला. द क्लर्जीमैन kept saying to the rest of the day, but it was not as extraordinary as the behavior of Mrs. Hall furniture a little later that morning. अभी फर्नीचर से भी क्या होता है, अब देखिए ये पैसा गया उसके बाद अभी मिसेस हॉल का फर्नीचर का क्या होता है वो भी हम यहाँ देखेंगे. The landlord and his wife were up very early and were surprised to see the scientist's door wide open. रात को उसका दरवाज़ा बंद नहीं किया. Usually it was shut and locked. ज़्यादातर उसको क्लोज रहता था और शट होता था. And he was furious if anyone entered his room. और ऊपर से वो तो बोला था कि मेरे रूम में किसी को आने का नहीं. The opportunity seemed too good to be missed. अभी तो खुला है तो देखते हैं वो क्या करता है. They peeped round the door, so nobody and decided to investigate. अंदर तो कोई है ही नहीं. और उन्होंने तपास की, इन्वेस्टिगेट किया, तहकीकात की. द बेड क्लोथ्स वर कोल्ड. बेड क्लोथ्स कोल्ड है तो यहाँ पे एक चेक किया उन्होंने. अगर आदमी सोया अभी गया होगा तो जो बेड के क्लोथ्स थे, बेड जहाँ है उसके जो भी कपड़े थे वो कैसे होते होंगे, टू बी वार्म. लेकिन showing that the scientists must have been up for some time, and stranger still, the clothes had bandages and he always were lying about him. तो बैंडेज पे तो वो भी यहाँ पे पूरा रखे बिखरे हुए हैं. तो from that it was decided that that man has escaped. All of a sudden Mrs. Hall heard a sniff close to her ear. Sniff close है ना, कोई आदमी आजू बाजू है ऐसा उसको सुनाई दिया. A moment later that hat on the bedpost leapt up. वो इनविजिबल मैन अपनी जो कैप है, हैट है, वो बेड पोस्ट से वो उठा के जहाँ पे हैट रखते हैं ना उसको उठा के पहन रहा है. वो दिख रहा है, हैट दिख रही है ऊपर से आती हुई ना. एंड डैश्ड इटसेल्फ टू हर फेस, और उसके फेस पे लगती है. देन द बेडरूम चेयर बिगेन अलाइव. चेयर हिलने लगी. Springing up into the air, it charged straight at her, legs foremost, as her husband turned away in terror. घबरा गए वो लोग. The extraordinary chair pushed them both out of the room and then appeared to slam and lock the door after them. The invisible man, Griffith, he closes and slams, but they are not able to see him. So Mrs. Hall always fell down the stairs by hysterics. Extreme emotions से गिर जाती हो, क्या हो रहा है. She was convinced that the room was haunted by spirits. भूत बली यहाँ पे कोई होगा तभी है ना ऐसा हो रहा है ना. हैट मूव हो रही है, कोई चेयर हिल रही है. And had the stranger and somehow caused these to enter into her furniture. और वो अपने फर्नीचर में घुस गया, कोई भूत प्रेत या फिर ऐसा कुछ हो रहा है जिससे हिल रहा है, हैट हिल रही है. My poor mother used to sit in that chair. She moaned to think that should rise up again against Meena. तो यह पुअर मदर जो है उसकी मैंने देखभाल नहीं की क्योंकि वो यहाँ पे बैठती थी. मे बी उसका कुछ आत्मा यहाँ पे भटक रहा है या कुछ है. The feeling among the neighbors was the trouble was caused by witchcraft, sorcery, magic से. Witchcraft means magic or not. When news of the burglary means illegally कोई बिल्डिंग में घुस के कुछ चोरी करना था, इसको burglary, at the suspected of having had a hand in it, suspicion grew Even stronger when suddenly produced some ready cash through, though he had admitted not long before that he had no money. अचानक पैसे कैसे आ गए इसके पास, भी पैसे दे रहा है. The village constable was secretly went for, पुलिस को बुलाया गया. Instead of waiting for the constable, Mrs. Hall went to the scientist who had somehow mysteriously appeared from that empty bedroom. अचानक वो बेडरूम में से बाहर निकला. I want to know what you have been doing in my chair upstairs, she demanded, and I want to know what it is you came out of an empty room and now you entered a locked room. कैसे तो ये पॉसिबल है, कैसे आता है ना. Mrs. Hall is totally, disturbed. What is happening? The scientist was always quick-tempered and gussa, becoming angry quickly, is called quick-tempered. Now he became furious, very angry. You don't understand who or what I am, he shouted. Very well, I'll show you. मैं कौन हूँ मैं बताता हूँ. Suddenly he threw all bandages, whiskers, spectacles, and even nose. It it took him only a minute to do this. सब कुछ निकाल दिया बॉडी से. The horrified people in the bar found themselves staring at a headless man. बिना सिर का आदमी. वो बैंडेज दिख रहा है, फोटो में देख सकते हो. Mr. Jaffers, the constable now come. Jaffers का जो पुलिस वाला है हैंडकफ लेके दिख रहा है फोटो में, वो आता है. To find that he had arrested a man without a head. वो सरप्राइज होता है कि बिना सिर का आदमी, कोई उसका आदमी फेस से पता चलता है कि कौन है. अभी फेस ही नहीं है तो कैसे मैं उसको अरेस्ट करूं. Mr. Jaffers was not easily prevented from doing this duty. If a magistrate's warrant was ordered a person's arrest, then the person had to be arrested with or without his head. Local officials was power of a judge. तो ना मैजिस्ट्रेट मीन्स पावर ऑफ अ जज. तो जज को अगर मैं बताऊं कि ना आदमी अगर होगा तो आदमी का सिर होना चाहिए, वो आदमी सिर से पहचाना जाता है, उसको बिना हेड के मैं कैसे अरेस्ट करूं, कैसे भी करके ले जाऊं तो प्रॉब्लम होगा. There followed a remarkable scene as a policeman tried to get hold of a man who was becoming more and more invisible as he threw off one garment after another. तो अब कपड़े फेंकते ही जाता है और ये सब पहने हुए, और ऐसा करके वो गायब होता जाता है. तो सब लोग देख के वो एकदम एस्टोनिश हो जाते हैं. Found himself struggling with someone he could not see at all. Some people tried to help him, but some found themselves hit by blows that seemed to come from nowhere. किसी को फैट लगती थी, ये लगती दिखाई नहीं थे कौन मार रहा था. तो Griffith the scientist was hitting them, being invisible. So that created a lot of scene in the streets also. In the end, Jaffers was knocked unconscious as he made a last attempt to hold on to the unseen scientist. He also was knocked, एक बुका मारता था पुलिसमैन भी वहाँ पे गिर जाता है. There were nerves, excited cries of hold him, but पकड़ो तो excited cries सुनाई देती थी. But this was easier said than done. कहना आसान था लेकिन ये करना बहुत मुश्किल था, क्योंकि ग्रिफिथ दिखाई नहीं दे रहा तो कैसे पकड़े. Griffin had shaken himself free and no one knew where to lay hands on him. तो वो फ्री हो गया था, कैसे उसको पकड़े वो किसी को पता नहीं चल रहा था. तो एच.जी. वेल्स के बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग स्टोरीज हैं. ऐसी स्टोरीज अगर आप यू वांट टू अंडरस्टैंड एंड एन्जॉय, दैन द सजेस्टेड रीडिंग में जो द इनविजिबल मैन, इसके साथ एज फार एज द ह्यूमन आई, इट हैपेंड टुमारो Balfour and this Isaac Asimov. So these are also similar type of invisible men. The stories related there you can see and enjoy. So with this, you have to complete the question answers, think as well as talk about it in your fair book. See you in the next session. Till then, goodbye.